Hey Spartans, we're going to talk more about ratios. Remember when we did the perfect paint and my hands turned into this? Ugh. Alright, so here's our notes for today. A blank is a multiplicative comparison of two quantities. That's what a ratio is. So let's fill in ratio. Poor Horatio. Now, ratios represent part to parts, part to whole relationships. Ratios can be written in three ways: with the word to, with a colon, or as a fraction. And please note, order matters when writing ratios. Here's an example. In a floral arrangement, for every rose, that's one rose, there are 2 carnations. So what is the ratio of carnations to roses? So since we're starting with carnations, I have to start with the number of carnations. That was a 2 to the number of roses, 1. 2 to 1 ratio. The other form, besides the word 2, was with the colon. I call it a dot dot, 2 dot dot 1. And then the last way would be in fraction form, where your first number goes first, 2 over 1, 2 to 1 ratio. The fraction you'll see a lot when we do tables, for example, over here. All right, now you can also do a part to a whole. What is the ratio of carnations? Okay, so I got to start with that number. That number was a 2 to the total flowers. So if I have 1 rose and 2 carnations, my total is 3. Oops. 2 to 3. Or 2 dot dot 3. And in fraction or table form, 2 over 3. Okay? Okay. Next over here, equivalent ratios. Let's zoom in a little bit. Slide to the left. Okay, equivalent ratios have the blank multiplicative comparison. Multiplier within the ratio. They have the same multiplicative comparison. What that means is, what you do to one side, you do to the other. The number of pies down here, that number is 2, is how many times the number of apples. So if I'm going from 10 down to 2, that's like divide by 5. But in multiplicative form, that would be times the fraction 1/5. 1/5 and divide by 5 mean the same thing. So this is 1/5 times the number of apples. So whatever the apples are 10. If I times them by 1/5, okay, remember we put the whole number over 1, and then I do top times the top, bottom times the bottom. See, it's the same thing as 10 divided by 5. 10 divided by 5. And it equals 2. Okay, over on this side, to get from the number of pies up to the apples, we're getting bigger. So the number of apples is bigger than the number of pies. How many times bigger? That would be 5 times bigger. So we're going to put a 5 there and there. All right, down to the next one. Blank equivalent ratios have a factor of change. We're going to write the word 2. 2 equivalent ratios have a factor of change, which means between the ratios. So like if I go from 10 apples to a new ratio of 20 apples, I got 2 times the apples there. Can you see that? And then to get back, say I've got 4 pies and I'm going backwards to 2 pies, that's divide by 2. But remember that also means times 1/2. So 1/2 multiply, divide by 2, same thing. Let me get this out of the way. There we go. Now if 2 ratios are equivalent, when the missing value can be found using either multiplicative comparison, like this, or factor of change, like this. All they're saying is when you have 2 numbers and you're trying to find the relationship between them, you can go from top to bottom, bottom to top, or you can go from side to side. That's what they mean. All right, let's go down to this part here. Blank are specific types of ratios that compare 2 quantities with different measures, like miles per hour, feet per inch, dogs and cats, stuff like that. These are called rates. And rates are only parts-to-part relationships. And it does not make sense to have a total. So if I have, let me just write something here. Let's say 50 miles per 1 hour. Can I have a total with the 50 and the 1? That would be 51 what? Can I add miles and add hours together? What would that make it? Hours? I have no idea. It doesn't make sense. So rates, you cannot find a total there. Or if I add inches and feet. Well, no, you can do that because 3.5 feet. Yeah. Okay. Bad analogy. But rates are things that only have part-to-part relationships, and it does not make sense to have a total. Okay. A unit rate, getting into this one tomorrow. A unit rate in which the second quantity in the comparison is 1 unit. So all a unit rate is the price for 1. Let's say I can get 10 hot dogs for $5. Well, how much is 1 hot dog? So to get from here to here, I can divide by 10, and 5 divided by 10, look at this, 5 divided by 10, that's 1/2. And how much money is a half a dollar? 50 cents. Boom. Or I could go from here to here, cut that in half, and half of 1 is 50 cents. Unit rates can be found in a table or by division. Now this is really cool. If a car travels 150 miles in 3 hours, so I'm going to write 150 miles, 3 hours. I love a table. A table is my best friend, and you're going to hear me call it my best friend table all the time because it just organizes everything perfectly for you. I have miles, I have hours, organize my numbers, 150 and 3. How many miles does a car travel per hour? Now, per hour means per 1 hour, so I'm going to go to 1 here. Now, I can look at the relationship in 2 different ways. I can say to get from 3 to 1, I divide by 3, or times 1/3, if you want to look at it that way. So then what's 150 times 1/3, or divide by 3? That equals 50. I also have a vertical relationship as well. If I'm going from 3 up to 150, I would do the same thing to the 1 to find out what my missing amount was. Now, how do I get from 3 to 150? Times 50. And 1 times 50 is 50. So we can look at the horizontal relationship or the vertical relationship. Sometimes one will make more sense than the other, and it's just what your brain sees in the number sense you have. All right, the last part. How can I find the unit rate or the amount of 1 by using division? Well, I'm going to put the top dog in the house, 150 miles in 3 hours, and I'm going to get to 1 hour. Take top dog in the house, bottom dog outside. 3 can't go into 1. Nope. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. Subtract. I have nothing left over, but I have 1 more digit of a 0. 3 goes into 0 0 times. Okay, put this in your notes and we'll fill out the back on a couple of days down the road. Have a great day. Bye, Spartans. Beep.